sure, I'd love to box. I mean, there's loads of people who are at my weight or a weight above or weight below who I would like my name to be mixed with. And there's quite a few people who've turned over um, that I would like to box, but it's so early on in everyone's careers that I feel a bit stupid calling someone out when both of us had like 2 fights, or but someone hasn't had a fight, or you've only had a couple of fights. So I'll fight anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be world champion, so whatever that means. I'm
Yeah.
happy to fight everybody, but at the moment, you know, I feel like I don't feel ready.
Hi everyone, this is Sasha from Women's Fight News, sponsored by Champions Memorabilia. Today I am joined by Amy Andrews. Amy, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. This is very exciting.
No, I'm excited that you're here. So I know you've been busy. So what have you been up to today?
I run the boxing at Virgin Active UK. So I've just actually started there during COVID, and today I've been doing a training course with the instructors. So we're bringing like a mix of fitness boxing and like authentic boxing to try and kind of make boxing more accessible to more people. So that's what I've been doing today. Lots of training of instructors, and it's really fun but really tiring. So
How important is that for boxing? Because like, for instance, if we look at women going into boxing gyms, I think that's quite intimidating. Like the gyms that I've been to when I started, I was the only woman in that gym. So it's quite easy to then go, I'm never going back there. So how important will this be?
So for me, this is actually how I started boxing. So I would never have gone to an amateur boxing gym ever. It just wouldn't have occurred to me. I never really watched boxing. It wasn't something that I just really knew about or was interested in. And then but actually in all my fitness classes that I do, it's actually majority is women, because I think a lot of women see boxing as a really great way to like stay fit, which it is, but then that kind of crossover of encouraging more people to take part competitively and like build up that kind of the more people the merrier, basically, isn't it? Because the more people that are involved, there's more competitions at all different levels, and there's so it's a great way for me, in my opinion, that people are kind of introduced to the sport in an area that they maybe feel comfortable in, and then they either carry on just doing it for fitness, which is great, or some people are fantastic. You just see people in the gym, you're like, whoa, you would definitely beat me up. So and go into a boxing gym and stuff like that. So it's there's boxing's for everyone, isn't it? It doesn't really matter what weight you are, what fitness level you are, if you're aggressive or if you're like super speedy. So it is for something for everyone. So yeah, I don't know. That's one of the things. I think more people should have access to it, but I don't get out a lot and I love boxing, so I feel like maybe
No, but I do agree, because boxing is such a good sport. And even friends who, I've got loads of friends who aren't sporty, not into it, but they've been to even like a boxercise class and they have loved it. And it is for everyone. But I think if, like you say, some people could walk in to the wrong, in a way, atmosphere. If you go into one of them very intimidating gyms, it only takes one bad experience and they'll never go back. And it's a shame then.
100% is, but there's so many different kinds of like, I don't know, boxing is a good sport for that, because you can go to like the local gym and you've got a particular vibe there, or you can go even to a boutique boxing gym and you've got a particular vibe there. Like there's something for everyone, so hopefully I don't know, it's more people come.
Yeah, definitely. And what a perfect job to have as a pro boxer, because is it somewhat then flexible so you can still focus on your training when you need to?
Yeah, it is. It's actually quite hard to have a full-time job when you're a professional athlete, though, as well. So even though, like, to a certain extent, like, they are really understanding, like if I have a fight, to a certain extent, but it's also if you were kind of working in a corporate environment and then you have meetings and stuff and you're like, cool, listen, I'm just off to spar. Everyone's like, all right. So they're understanding to a certain extent, but obviously it's hard to fit everything in as well. But I'm not complaining. I've got a wicked job and I get to box. So yeah.
And I suppose, I mean, obviously you're 2-0 at the minute, but a lot of boxers who turn over from amateurs, like, you do still need to work at that time. I think people miss that bit out. I think people look at like the Katie Taylors and the Anthony Joshuas and go, oh my God, so you just train full time and you get paid millions, and they miss out the really difficult bit at the beginning.
Absolutely. It's tough, isn't it? Because it's so expensive to be a boxer, because it's time apart from anything else. So like, if you're investing all that time but you're not getting paid, but you still need to pay for a lot of things, like obviously coaches and things like that, but also like to sell the tickets and do sorts of things like that, make sure that you're but yeah, it's very expensive, so I definitely need a job too. And then also because before this I was boxing for New Zealand, which is self-funded, so I every single credit card that you could ever imagine I got out. So
Yes.
now I've paid that back, which is great, but it was very expensive being an amateur boxer too, but enjoyable but expensive. So
Yeah, it is. And I think that's something that's like missed out is, the cost. So if you're in camp, for instance, that cost is so expensive. I mean, it's like your food becomes more expensive. Anytime you've got to eat better, it's expensive. Your training, recovery that you have to do. It is very pricey, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I say about my coaches, I mean they obviously like give so much of their time up for free. So I'm not trying to say like they're expensive. I'm just saying there's so many people that give up the time that you want to sort of be able to support and stuff back. But yeah, the food, because my husband's a professional boxer as well. So so I don't eat meat, but I order his meat. But I'm like, oh, he must have the best meat because then so there's this like halal butcher that I order from for him, and that's really expensive. So if you actually invest in like good food, you feel like it's expensive. So yeah, you've got to do the right things, don't you? So
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it is, I always think like the nutrition bit, not only like, especially if you're cutting weight for a fight, like I always think that is just such a miserable time in general.
You sound like a woman who speaks from experience then. Yes.
But it's not fun. And then obviously it is expensive. And then you're having to work full time as well as train full time. So how do you, like, I think mentally as well, not only physically, how do you juggle that?
Yeah, it is tough. So, I mean, for example, yesterday I was at work by 7 and I literally worked the whole day doing training course, finished at 5, no real breaks or anything because I had meetings throughout it, and then I rushed up and I had sparring, so I went straight into sparring and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. And then I came back and I had to go for a run, and then I woke up this morning and I had to go back to the training thing. So it's just mentally, you're just like, you give so much at work and then you have to come back, and then obviously if you switch off in sparring, that's not ideal. It's not going to batter you. So.
Yeah.
And then it is exhausting, but it's also like if you really like I love boxing, so I feel really, really lucky to get to do something like that. And I could just give it up or something, but why would I? Because I get to be in a ring and I get to like do something that I love doing. So it can be tough, but obviously you make decisions, right?
Yeah.
So,
And is that your motivation there? When you are like, you're exhausted, you've been in work all day, you've then got to spar and then go for a run, which is disgusting in its own right. Is that the motivation though of how much you love the sport and actually knowing that in the end, this could all be worth it anyway?
Well, sort of, but I'm so competitive. I'm just really, really competitive. So I feel like I'm like, I can be a world champion. I know I can. So why would I not chase that? Like, there's people who are obviously Shannon Courtenay, and I beat her, and she was world champion. She's not now. But then there's people out there like Chapman and stuff like that who I box in the amateurs, and you just feel like if this is the level of the people who are out there, then that's where I want to be. That's where I should be. And if I don't go for a run, I'm only cheating myself because I know what I'm capable of in the pros, if that makes sense. So I don't want to be in a situation where someone's like, do you want to fight next week? And I'm like, oh no, sorry, I didn't go for a run. Like, I'm ready, So yeah, I'm just incredibly competitive. So it's more really that. And yeah, I really love it. So not so much, I love fighting, of course, because it's what you aim for, but sparring's literally my favorite thing in the world to do. So I feel lucky that I get to go and do that. So I'd probably definitely be like, oh, I'm too tired to do my S&C, like, because I find it boring. But sparring, no way, I'm there. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I was going to talk about that actually, because you've obviously in the amateurs, you were a very successful amateur. And like you've just said, then you've beat Shannon Courtenay, who's a former world champion. You've beat Chapman, who just had a great performance last weekend.
She's doing fantastically. So I'm really pleased.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ravens, and I love watching her box, and she's a fantastic boxer, and she's a future world champion, but as are you. So but how did you get into it, and just talk about your amateur experience, because it was very successful.
Thank you. So again, as I said, I'm just really competitive. So there was never really any plan. Like I started off doing white collar. I did a couple of white collar fights, just because I used to be a journalist. So then I've got really addictive competitive personality. So I then was like, I really love this, how can I do more? And then at that time there wasn't that many girls who took part in boxing, especially white collar. So I went along to a boxing club, amateur boxing club, for sparring. And then that's when I found out more about amateur. I didn't really know about it. So then I joined Haringey Boxing Club, and they obviously the guys there, Terry, Jerry and Brian, have been instrumental in kind of really supporting women's boxing. Like, they were the coaches for Nicola Adams, and Terry has done a huge amount to like boost grassroots women's sport, boxing. So loads of opportunities there to like really, really progress. But then I guess because I'm a bit older as well, like I just kind of took matters into my own hands. Like, I got asked to box for England in the Tri Nations, and it was the first time I'd really kind of had a competition, like, you know, being in that sort of environment and that level. And I was like, I don't even train properly, and like, this isn't really like, I don't know, I could probably make something of this, like, let's go. So then just because I am a bit older, I just didn't really, I don't know, anyway, basically my family's all from New Zealand. My mum's a New Zealander. So I went over there and joined the club there and worked my way up there, which was actually quite hard because everyone's a bit like, who are you and why are you over here? But worked my way up and like won their world championship qualifications. So I represented them, the world champs, 3 years ago actually now. And then that was the first international experience I had. And then I just continued to box for them and work my way up. And then eventually I got onto the Olympic. And then when I was doing that, I kind of felt like sometimes people would be like, why are you going to New Zealand? Like, can you not make it in England? So I was like, oh, you guys, what do you know? Yeah. I went to the ABA, and I won the British ABA championships when I was doing that. That's when I beat Raven. So I just kind of wanted, I was sick of people being like, oh, you're going to New Zealand because you can't do it here. I was like, I can do it here. It's just, I don't know, like, my family's from New Zealand and stuff. And it was an amazing, like, it's an amazing experience to be part of that and like feel like I would just stay with my family all the time and kind of really, it was amazing. But then COVID hit. So that was a shame because we were on our way to Wuhan for the qualifiers there, the Olympic qualifiers, and then that got cancelled. And then I got really sick, but basically the qualification process changed. So anyway, but it was really fun. So
and it was a very, like you say, successful amateur career. And like you say, you've done it in New Zealand, and then, you know, if people are going to talk, then you'll just go and prove them wrong, and simple, job's done. The Olympic qualifiers was such a shame. I think quite a few, well, actually a lot of boxers ended up missing out because obviously they had to change the qualifying system. What was that like, that whole experience when, you know, COVID hit, you knew it'd be cancelled, the Olympics, and then you knew the qualifiers would change? How did you handle all of that?
Really badly, actually, just because it'd been something that I'd been working for so hard for so long. Like, I think the year before I had 25 fights just in the 1 year. Like, I worked so hard and gave up everything and took out all the credit cards and was like, going to this country, going to that country. But like everyone, you know, it's that's why it's such a tough, amazing competition, because every single person, you know, when you see the qualifiers and stuff, like how much it means to every single person in that ring is just amazing to watch. So that's why it's so compelling. So obviously there's only a few slots and not everyone can make it, but being part of that process was like so exciting. But so then having COVID and not being able to get to New Zealand, not being able to box, things like that, I was just I found it really hard to start off with, just to kind of have, like, I wasn't really like, what does life mean if I'm not boxing? I don't know. Not because I'm like, there's not more to life, but just because I was used to my day-to-day like routine, like my motivation, like everything that I was like put on hold, and sort of like everybody really with COVID, everyone had things that they were doing, and then suddenly life completely changed. So but for me, I found it tough. But then that's when I decided to turn pro, because it's always been the plan, but I kind of wanted to get the most out of the amateur boxing that I could, because for me, there's nothing like amateur boxing. I absolutely love it. And what I was saying with the qualifiers, where you have people, you know, really just, it's not a business, it's just like a passion and a love, and like obviously there's like business elements to it, but it's just, you have two people who are matched on ability and weight, and that's it, and then they're in there and they're 100% going for it. So that's incredible. But I am ready to. I was ready to kind of try a different part of boxing. So yeah, loving the pros.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think the best bit about amateurs is like, in the way, like the no bullshit of, you know, you're not having to wait 12 months at a time for a fight and all of that rubbish. It is like, you do it one purely for passion. There's no other reason you're an amateur boxer really, apart from you want to do it and you love the sport, but you're active and you're in, like you say, with people who are matched abilities.
Yeah.
And that as a fan watching amateur boxing, that's always the best bit, is that you see unbelievable fights in amateur boxing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like when watching the Olympics and you were like, you know, all the, I don't know, like you see the Cuban sun and you see this, and it's just like, people don't really understand. I think like the normal viewer doesn't really understand amateur boxing in lots of different ways. They don't find it as exciting because they think it's like amateurs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love it. So
yeah,
and I had experience in the amateurs, so
yeah.
So yeah.
Was it difficult to watch the Olympics? I'm just thinking about how I would feel, in the sense of knowing that there was a chance I could have been there, but then it was kind of taken away from me. I think I would have struggled to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I did really enjoy watching it. I didn't feel like it had been taken away from me, because I do feel like it's a big ask to get to qualify. I would have loved the opportunity to have a real go at it, because I was really ill when I boxed, when we did the qualifiers, and just the whole process, like I was totally on it before Wuhan and all this sort of stuff. So I feel like it wasn't meant to be for me that time. I feel like I got a lot out of it and I really improved. But watching the girls that I know, that I've sparred with, that I've boxed, being in the ring, that was incredible, because I was like, okay, I'm a bit jealous of you right now, but I feel like if you're where it's at, that's cool. That's good for me to know. And that in a way, just because I've not been in boxing for as long as maybe other people, maybe that kind of gave me the nudge that I needed, that showed me that I should be here and I should be at that level, and that kind of made me very excited about the pros. So
just use that as a positive, I suppose, don't you? And like you say, so like, and then for instance, obviously you've then got someone like Shannon, Courtenay, who you've beat in the amateurs. You've then watched her go on and win a world title. What does that do in a way for like your motivation? Thinking, well, you know, I've beat her once and that's the level she's at, so where can I get to?
That's the thing. But I think in the pros it is different from the amateurs. So there are people where you're like, I've beaten them, like I would like to have another go at beating you, because this is on a different playing field. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I can beat you then, I can beat you now. I feel that. But it's not really like, you know, people develop as boxers, people have different coaches, like that's what makes it exciting. You're looking for something else. I think my style, like I'm quite aggressive and very competitive, and I feel like hopefully that will be entertaining for people to watch in the pros, but it is about something else. So where the amateurs you know, is you get points in a certain way, in the pros it's different. So it's a different ball game, but it's definitely like gives me the motivation. Well, not that I need motivation, but it was like, oh, if you can do that, so can I. Easy. So
because I'd have the same attitude. Like I said, I mean, amateurs and pros is like a different sport realistically when we look at it, but at the same time, you know, if you've been in the ring with someone, I think I'd be like, oh, well, I've done it once, I'm going to do it again.
yeah, and it makes it fun anyway, because isn't it just, it's part of the, like, people, it's interesting to people if there's already like been some sort of history of people. It's interesting to see it again. And there's, I mean, as I said, there's like Tycia, I boxed her in the amateurs. There's loads of people that I boxed in the amateurs, Emma, loads of people. So, you know, it kind of makes it more fun.
100%. Well, it does. I mean, if you look at Tasha Jonas, Katie Taylor, if they hadn't fought in the amateurs, I don't think that fight would have been as big as it was prior.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like a different it is a different, people look, you know, a lot happens over a few years, so but it just kind of gives a bit of history, and it's just entertaining to watch, isn't it? So.
100%. And if it makes it easier to sell a fight, and it's effortless ease as well, you know, because I mean, part of obviously being a pro is selling the fight, and I know there's always pressure on like ticket sales and things like that. So if you can already walk in, you've got that edge, it just takes a bit of that pressure off. So you're 2-0. So tell us about your first two fights.
So it was a long time coming, because I was really trying to get fights, and I didn't really know who to sign with, because I didn't come through GB. I found it a little bit more difficult to you know, I didn't really know which promoters and stuff to be talking to. I didn't really have those connections and stuff. So I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to kind of get on with it. Like I found my team, my training team, and that's been amazing. Like that's taken a bit of time to really nail. So that was great. And then training with them and working with them and stuff. So I've got an amazing team, which I love, and that we will just like push each other. So then loads of fights fell through, maybe like 8 or 9. And
what?
Then, yeah.
No.
Yeah, because I was meant to fight in October in America last year, and then basically I just kept I didn't fight until August or September the following year. So there was basically like, you know, when you're like, I'm training, I'm like, oh yes, I'm gonna fight, and then it didn't happen. And they were like, okay, I'm gonna go again. So I train, and then it didn't happen. And then I was like, then you start training, but you're like, is it gonna happen? And then it's like, kind of stick with it. And then obviously I've had a lot of people, it does get people down, but for me I was like, it happens. Everyone you talk to has some sort of experience in the pros where it's not as easy as they would like, so you can bitch about it or you can just move on. So kind of stuck with it. And then eventually I've got an incredible coach in Italy, Lorenzo, who's been really, really happy. I've known him from the amateurs as well, and he sorted out the fight with me with Polina in England. So Polina's now gone on to fight. I think everyone's like so desperate for girls to fight that if someone fights, that's it, they've made it, they'll fight never. So I boxed Polina. I went straight into 6 rounds because Lorenzo was basically like, you know, it's only 2 minutes, you know, get on with it, basically.
When you've got the opportunity, be in the ring for as long as possible, because you don't know when it's coming again at that rate.
Exactly. And I'd like to, as I said, I've got like big plans, so I wanted to kind of get on it as soon as possible. And then after that, I actually went to Italy because I've always wanted to box in Italy as a pro, and they had this wicked show where it was outside. And like it was just so cool, and they had like hip hop stuff, but it wasn't a boxing event. It was a different, it was like a big festival event. So they had the boxing on as one of the nights, and it was just really, really, really cool. So again, I did 6 rounds, and that was great. And really, it was quite intimidating to box in another country almost, because you feel like, you know, if you're at home, you've got your crowd, and everyone's like, Amy, and then when you're there, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, are people supporting me? Are they not? Like, we don't know. But I learned a lot from that fight as well. And I won that as well. It was quite straightforward. So now I'm just looking to, you know, push on up there. I don't know who I'm fighting now in a couple of weeks. I was meant to be fighting a girl called, I think, anyway, someone from the amateurs. So, I don't think that's happening. So,
right.
But me and my husband are boxing on the same show, so that'll be pretty fun.
Oh, that's brilliant. What show is that going to be?
It's on the 8th of December, and it's a Warren Boxing Management one in York. So me and Newman are on that, and it'll be really fun. So it's kind of a bit naff, but it's also really fun because we're like training together, and like we already train together anyway, but like as in, he can't eat chocolate, I can't eat chocolate. We're we're on the same.
No arguments.
Exactly. And we've got like a big crew that will come and support us because we were both at Haringey together, so lots of people know us through you know, we've got some mutual friends and stuff, so it will be a really fun crowd hopefully. So I'm excited. But so
that's exciting. And your call as well, what an amazing place to box at as well.
So my first white collar fight was actually at York Hall, and then my first pro fight was in York Hall. So I love it. I just love being there. So I feel like when you're happy, fighting somewhere, it's always like, you know,
gives you that edge.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like with your second fight, I think in a way, like you're quite brave to like go away and fight. I was talking to Laura Payne about this the other week, of being able to go away and be the away fighter. I think it's essential. I think more boxers should do it earlier on in the careers, because I think it gives you that whole new world and experience. But there's that fear. I would have that fear of the judges or the ref, whoever's scoring, because we've seen at times, you know, a few dodgy decisions. And then you also, like, say, don't really have the crowd supporting you. You're going in and no one wants you to win.
Yeah, well, everyone there was so nice though. They really shouted for me, so that was wicked. But I think I don't know, like, I don't think women's boxing is the same as men's boxing. I think it might probably change into that, but at the moment, like for example, you were talking about Natasha Jonas, she wouldn't have got that opportunity if she hadn't have lost. Like that, I think that there aren't journey women in the same way as there are with men, and I don't necessarily think that women's boxing has to follow in the same trajectory. Like you want interesting fights, and I'm not planning on losing, but if I ever lost, I don't think it's the end of the world. No. Like you have the idea is the end goal. So whatever gets you to that end goal, the experience, having good fights where you're showing off your skills and entertaining everybody while you're fighting, then that's what it's all about. And I think we're lucky in a way to have that pressure taken off us with the kind of vibe. Yes, everyone's really into. I don't really like it.
No, I'm the same.
I don't want to lose, but I'm not gonna, I don't know. I think it's a shame that people have that pressure.
I think that's, like you've just said, the better thing about women's boxing is the O is just irrelevant at the end of the day. Like as long as, and because there isn't as many fighters, you don't really get, there's a few journey women that you'll see always fight, but typically by your third, fourth fight, you're fighting equally matched opponents. And if you go and you get beat to someone that just on that night was better than you, there's no drama, because you're still going to learn from it and improve. And like you said, if your end goal is to be world champion, you can still be world champion with a loss on your record. It makes no difference.
In fact, probably you might be more likely to get a fight, to get that opportunity in some ways, because people might be like, oh, we'll take that fight, but actually they're idiots, they shouldn't have taken that fight.
Yes.
Yeah, you have more interesting stuff going on because it is more competitive. So
100%. And even if you look at someone like Ebony Bridges, who lost to Shannon Courtenay, her career spiked after that. Her career was better for that one loss. So okay, she's got a loss on the record, but then she had a great performance. Even though she lost, everyone loved her for it, and then she's had 2 brilliant fights since.
She's brilliant, isn't she? I absolutely love what she's doing with her career. She's fantastic. She's like, I think a lot of people, myself included, were very like, oh, boxing is boxing. You have to really like show with your fist like what you can do, and then kind of get people get a bit like, oh, I can't believe that she's such and such, But really, she's world champion or she's getting these opportunities. But it's like, boxing's a business. If you can't entertain people, you won't get these opportunities. So like, take a leaf out of I don't have to, sadly. Otherwise, I might get more involved, but like. Like that just show, there's different avenues to be successful, and it's great when there's like, what's her name, the one who booked the American, what's her name, why am I being an idiot, who boxed last week against
Mary McGee, Michaela Mayer.
Like, obviously she's like fights with her fist, but is also totally beautiful. So you do have some people who are good at doing the both, but she shows that you can be really successful at the marketing, but also show what you can do with your sporting skills and stuff as well. So
no, that's completely right. Like you say, I mean, there isn't just one. You've got someone like Katie Taylor, for instance, who just she's got her own avenue. She's went down a different path, and then you've got someone like Ebony, who has been great at self-promoting. And at the end of the day, she comes from Australia, which is very far away, and typically we don't hear of Australian fighters, unfortunately. And then so she's just worked hard and promoted herself. And then we've got someone else like Terry Harper, who obviously just lost her world title fight last weekend. But again, we saw I didn't like watching it because I'm a Terry Harper fan, but it was a good fight as a fan. But again, we're getting rid of these like loads of tune-up fights and things like that. And which, if you look at men's boxing at times, I think time is wasted, where you get someone turning over and they're like, it's the 16th fight and they still haven't fought someone equally matched. And it's like, oh my God.
It's that. And then obviously then when they do get opportunities to fight people, they haven't got sparring is different from fighting.
Yeah.
If you're fighting tough people and you're going from, this level to suddenly this level, like that is going to be quite difficult. But also I think it's boring to watch, like from a fan's perspective, some of the shows that have been put on, you're just like, almost everyone is fighting a journeyman. And that's not interesting, like from a viewer's perspective. A few, of course, but by and large, you want to be watching these big shows with every single fight being really exciting. So
100%. Yeah, I agree. Like, you don't mind, when someone's turned over, if their first 2 or 3 fights are okay, journeyman or journeywomen, that's fine. But I think once you're getting past that.
Yeah. because it is different from amateurs. So you have to kind of, you can't, if you're going to entertain people, you have to have that learning experience as well. Like those fights where you're kind of working out your style and feeling comfortable in the ring in front of those people. That's understandable, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're fighting in 2 weeks. So how has camp went, and how has camp been? Because obviously you've had a fight being cancelled. So have you just been in like a permanent camp all year?
Yeah. But that's fine with me because I enjoy it. It keeps me on the straight and narrow. And I love boxing, and I've got an amazing team, so I'm very lucky. I get to hang out with them all the time. So you know, I feel like I'm winning. You know, it's good. It's nice. And yeah, that's it really. I kind of miss. The only thing I really miss is like, I don't know, probably eating loads of chocolate. But when you have it, it's never as good as you remember. So.
That's so true. So it's like you've bigged it up so much, and then you actually eat a piece, and you're like, "Oh, that was underwhelming."
Yeah, I'd much rather be boxing or fighting, because that's has happened. Like when me and Newman both have had fights that fell through, and we've got this restaurant that we go to when we're about to fight. Before as like a sort of we can eat loads and we love the food, and then when we haven't when it's fallen through, we go there and we're like, don't care.
It's not the same.
Such a letdown. Yeah. All the pasta I can have, and I don't want it. I just want to fight.
And then do you have any plans? So will this be your last fight this year then, I'm presuming?
I mean literally up for fights whenever. So this is my last fight. I know that I've got planned, but if someone asked me to fight, I'd be there. So December is a long month. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true. And there's quite a few shows as well coming up in December as well. It's a busy time. So what are your like long-term plans then? What are, you know, ambitions within the sport?
I guess I really want to make this is the English boxing list. That would be
yes, which we'll go into.
I want people to know who I am and be excited to watch me and be a name that's thrown about with the best people out there. That's like, you know, I want to be like, show off what I can do and be kind of known as someone who's up there with the best, if not the best. And obviously I want to be world champion.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the plan, Stan.
Yeah. Easy, simple though, because like I say, I mean, you've already got that momentum. I know it's amateurs and it's different sport, but you do have that momentum coming through. And like, if you can get the ball rolling, obviously you've had 2 fights now, a couple cancelled, but as soon as you get the ball rolling, there's no time limit. It's not like it's 6-7 years down the line. You can get going soon.
Yeah. And also like, I do think I really, when I've got something like a, what is it called, like a bone or whatever, like then I really go for it. I don't know saying, but you know what I mean.
Yes. Yeah.
Like with the amateurs, everyone's like, oh, you're so old and you'll probably never make it and stuff. And then I was like, cool, what else? And then get on it, and then like everyone's like, oh no, it's too fast to go to New Zealand, like how will you do it? And I'll just go and find whatever. And I've had like I've got the most incredible sponsors as well. So I've been so lucky with them. So they're people that I've known and met, and they've just really supported me, and I just wouldn't have been able to do it without them. They're incredible. So that I've been really lucky with that, but a lot of it has just been me being like, cool, I'm off, I'll see you later, and then just so I feel like I have that like grit, so yes, hopefully that will pay off as well. Not hopefully, it will pay off.
It will 100%. And is there anyone like domestically within your division that you'd like to be in the ring with?
There's a few people. I feel like it's difficult at this stage of the career, and I don't want to be boring and like not call people out. I'm happy, like, I'd be like, sure, I'd love to box. I mean, there's loads of people who are at my weight or a weight above or weight below who I would like my name to be mixed with. And there's quite a few people who've turned over that I would like to box, but it's so early on in everyone's careers that I feel a bit stupid calling someone out when both of us had like 2 fights, but someone hasn't had a fight, or you know, you've only had a couple of fights. So I'll fight anyone. I want to be world champion, so whatever that means. I'm happy to fight everybody, but at the moment, you know, I feel like I don't feel ready in a position to be calling people out because I've only had 2 fights.
Yeah, but I suppose as well, you've just got to, like you say, you'll just take whatever fights come, and then whoever's in front of you. If you say yeah, then that's who you fight. And they say, and then it'll get to the point where you'll just fight whoever's got the belt at the time, because you can't see into the future. I suppose we won't know who's got them belts.
Yeah. And even like I was asked actually to fight like the Italian national champion, and I said yes. So hopefully that's something that will happen early next year, and just, you know, some interesting people that will come up. But I just want to like get some good fights, entertain people. I'll fight whoever. So
yes, amazing. Well, Amy, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed chatting with you.
It's really nice of you to make the time for me. I really appreciate it. Like, I love what you're doing, and it's really very informative, getting you know, reading all the who's fighting where and what and how. So
no, thank you, and best of luck in 2 weeks. I'll be watching. Is there anywhere where people can watch that fight on the night?
Well, you can come to your call and get tickets off me. So onto my you can get, like, drop me a message on Instagram, Amy Andrew Boxing. But yeah, come live.
Yes.
That's the best, I would say.
Yes, I was going to say that is always the best way to watch boxing, when you can hear the punches land. That doesn't get better than that. Well, best of luck in 2 weeks.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like and subscribe to our channel, where we have new videos dropping all of the time. Also, head over to our social media pages, where we have the latest boxing news, as well as interviews and live coverage from boxing events.